Did I tell you things break on sailboats? It's true. Well, you own a sailboat and you sail it, you've probably noticed that things break. And things have been breaking for me too.
Hello and welcome. My name is Tim, and for 3 weeks I work on a tugboat like this, and then I have 3 weeks off and I hang out on a boat like this. Actually, this boat. I bought this boat a few years ago, and since then have been sailing it up and down the east coast of the U.S. and into the Caribbean. We've been fortunate enough to put about 6,000 miles under the keel in the last few years. And these are some of the things that I've learned in that time. Stick around, I hope you like it.
Did I tell you things break on sailboats? It's true. Well, you own a sailboat and you sail it, you've probably noticed that things break. And things have been breaking for me too. Not like all of a sudden, it just, every time I come back to the boat, something else has gone wrong. And now it's time to pay. So anyway, one thing was, I wanted to make a whole video about this, but when it happened, I didn't have the the camera going. But when we were in the Bahamas, or no, we were in the Keys, I lost my anchor. Can you believe that? And there's a huge, I posted on the Island Packet Owners Association page, and there's a huge debate of whether you should use a swivel or not. So this is a swivel right here, and this is I had wanted, if I was going to buy a new anchor, to probably buy a big oversized Mantis and one of the Mantis swivels. As swivels go, I think they're usually a weak spot. I think there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to use a swivel. Let me just try to see if I can put this camera somewhere so I can show you what I'm talking about. So that noise that you're hearing is the engine. We currently have 3 knots of apparent wind as we're headed to New London, Connecticut. Yeah. But anyway, we just left Guilford Harbor. Had to wait for the tide. When we went into Guilford, we had to make 2 attempts. The first attempt got us creeping in until we couldn't creep anymore, and then we had to back out for about another 40 minutes and then go back in, and then we had water to get in. But anyway, so here's a swivel. This part here goes on the chain, and this part here goes on the anchor, and there's supposed to be a pin in here. And the problem that a lot of people will cite for not using a swivel is because of what they call side loading, and that's not pulling this way. What that is when the anchor is set like this, and then the tide changes or the wind changes, and then you start pulling at an angle like this, and instead of having everything go in this direction, it goes at perpendicular to it, and it can break a lot of swivels. I think the Mantis swivel design is really good for that, to try to reduce that. And I was going to get rid of a swivel. When I lost my anchor, I had a shackle, and I shackled into my second anchor, and that all worked. And there's a lot of people on the Island Packet Owners Association that say they never use a swivel. They've always used a shackle. Their chain never comes up twirled up and knotted up and that sort of stuff. And you know what? I haven't had a problem with that either since I've used the shackle. But my friend Runa, well, I should tell you about well, let me just tell you first what happened. I blamed it. I thought that I broke the swivel when we went to deploy the anchor, and my buddy Jim was up there deploying it, and I said, all right, told him how much to let out. He let it out, and the wind's blowing, so I usually, start a little stern way, drop the anchor, and then as we're falling back, I'm just going through somebody's wake right now, so you're hearing the cafe door shut. But as the wind blows me down, it'll usually, because the bow is, doesn't have a keel in the water, the bow will fall off faster than the stern. And this is a technique that we use on the tugboats as well with the barge. The barge is light, we let the bow blow off, and then that will give the anchor enough pressure to dig in, but not enough to pop out. And so when I back up and the bow starts falling off, then when it digs in, it goes straight like that, and we're set and everything's good. You don't have to back on it. It's wonderful. Anyway, that's everybody has their own way of anchoring. That's how I do it, and it works well for me. But with this particular time, Jim let it out, and I was like, Jim, how much did you let out? We should have been fetched up by now. We're going like a knot backwards, knot and a half backwards. And I'm like, there's no way, I don't have this kind of chain on board. So I said, haul it in, we'll reset it again. Well, he hauls it in, and it comes in without any anchor on it. So I was like, oh my God, we lost it. And in a panic, I thought we had lost the swivel as well. What we later found out was, and you know what, I think I might have this wrong. I think, yes, this part right here goes on the anchor, and this part here goes on the chain, and the chain came up bare. And so then fast forward a week, Jim and Kristen are gone. Runa is down here, and Runa's like, we're gonna go back to Marathon, we're gonna find your anchor. We had dove on the anchor for probably 4 or 5 hours looking for it. And if you've ever been to Marathon, you'll see that for some reason, I don't know what it is, the water is not very clear, and it's not dirty, it's just that they have a lot of current there and a lot of stuff that's makes visibility tough. I mean, you can't see, if you put your hand in front of your face, you may, this close, you may be able to make out your hand, but you won't be able to count your fingers. That's how bad it is. And the current was running so hard where we were at, it was always a struggle to just find the, you know, to be in the same place holding our breath. We'd go down and you think you'd find something, but you come up for a breath of air. When you went down again, you were 20 feet away from where you were before. So that was awful. Anyway, we went back there with Runa, and he was trying, and there was a couple in a catamaran right next to us that saw us and yelled over to us and said, hey, we have a hookah. And a hookah system is a air compressor with a hose and a regulator, and theirs was like this battery one, and they said, do you want to use it? I said, we'd love to. Runa used that thing in probably 10 or 15 minutes after he had that, where he could just stay on the bottom cruising around. He came up and said he found it. He found the anchor. We retrieved it, and like I say, this was still on the anchor, and but it was missing this bolt. So this is a German company, and Runa was able to contact them, and he got the piece and a new set screw and everything. I just haven't put it back because I've been wanting to see how well the shackle works on its own. But you know, it's kind of funny because I'm looking at this, and if any of you want to comment about this, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Obviously, I'm not a structural engineer, but this metal right around here, and this shank right here, and the ball, it's a ball joint like that. I'm thinking that every piece of this is stronger, or bigger and stronger than any piece of my shackle that I have. So I'm thinking whether the shackle gets side loaded or this gets loaded, I think that this is probably better. So what I'm saying is, when I lost the anchor, I didn't lose it as a fault. It wasn't a failure of the swivel. It was a failure of me not watching and seeing that, one, there's a set screw right here. That set screw had probably backed off, and two, that other screw would have had to unscrew for a while. I don't think it happened like that. It was probably happening a little bit by little bit by little bit. And so one of the things that happens, and I don't believe I'm alone here, when you have crew on board, and especially the people that aren't that familiar with sailing. In the case of Jim, he's a licensed captain of a power boat, and he has 2 boats himself, and he's a commercial fisherman. He does all kinds of stuff. But the kind of anchoring, the stuff that we do is a little different. And so when I'm on a sailboat, and I'm sure it's the same with you guys, you try to involve your crew. You don't want to have them do stuff where they're going to get dangerous, but the more involved they can be, the better time they're going to have, and they end up learning something, and sometimes we can learn by teaching them as well. And in this case, what I've learned from this was that by sending multiple different crew up there, launching the you know, after explaining what to do, without me taking a look at everything, you can't expect them to look at stuff because it's not their boat and they don't do that. So I get that. So anyway, that's what happened.
So in making this video, Crystalita apparently had some cell phone footage of Runa and Desan retrieving the anchor. And as you can see, when Runa found the anchor, he put we put a little marker ball on there so we could come back and find it again. And a Rachna 25, that's 25 kilos, or I think 55 pounds. They pulled that thing in, and then we figured out what had happened. And I was quite relieved. For those that don't know, it's about $1,000 worth of anchor, let alone how much the swivel is worth. But I was preparing to say, well, it looks like I'm going to be buying a new anchor. But anyway, they found it, and that was awesome. And
have a fix for that. As far as other things breaking,
it's only made me attached to this anchor much more. We've been through a lot together.
Fort Lauderdale,
so we ended up putting a shackle on this, and
May?
using it ever since.
Yeah.
The new part came
End of
in,
May, beginning
ready
of
to
June.
install the
Right
swivel,
before I got
I'll
off the
probably
boat,
just keep
had
using the shackle for a little bit longer.
Flood in Fort Lauderdale. The airport was 3 foot underwater. Everything was. Anyway, Paquita was kept there, and luckily it was at a dock that had high pilings, so it didn't overtop the pilings. So that I was lucky about that. But something that happened that was really unfortunate is I keep my dinghy up on the dinghy davits with the plug pulled, so when any rain will drain out of it. But those plugs have a one-way valve. And obviously, I'm sure as I make this video and as you guys are watching this, you'd say, well, how could you be so stupid? You know, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm sure that from the comfort of where you are, you might say, well, of course that's the case, where it might not be as obvious when it's right in front of you. I've done this for 2 years, left it up like that, it's been fine, the water's driven up. Anyway, there's a couple things that happened. Three problems. One was that I think it rained so fast that the water couldn't exit faster than the water was coming in. And number two, there's a flapper valve, like a one-way valve, and that reduces the amount of water that goes out. And number three, because of all the wind during the storm, there were some leaves and debris that was in there. That's the most obvious one that you would think would be the problem, but I'm not sure that that's the culprit as much as the other two. At any rate, these Weaver davits are designed for, I think they're supposed to hold like 600 pounds or something like that. But I have a dinghy that weighs about 150 pounds, and then another 125-pound motor on top of that, and then probably 1,000 pounds of water. And that, if you look here, you can probably see the bar, the jockey bar there. It's bent down a little bit. This is here. You would think that the Weaver davits would bend down, but they were so strong and they're mounted to the back rail that it wanted to pull the back rail back. Well, I don't know if you can see this or not. You see this right here? This kept the rail from going back too far, but as the pressure went back, it was pulled down. And if you look at this angle as opposed to this angle over here, hopefully you can see that around my belly, this has been bent down. And underneath here, let me bring you up there. Underneath here, you can see that it cracked. And what's really funny is, I don't know if it's funny, but if you look over on this one, you can't really see it, but there's a hole there too. They've drilled holes here and here. And what I think it was they did that in case you wanted to mount speakers or run wires for lights or something like that. I believe that's why there were holes in there. So obviously it would be nice to have $1 million and have all this stuff redone. Even if I had the money to do that right now, I don't know that I'd want to do that, because if I had that kind of money, I would probably want to get rid of them all completely and have a custom arch built. I gotta find somebody that can work with me to build an arch, you know, that would incorporate a dinghy lift and all that sort of stuff. I have and hold my solar panels. So I have an idea about that, but all of that is down the road. And especially because we were in Fort Lauderdale and we had to get north, I contacted a couple people, 2 different people that had 110 volt MIG welders that we could run on the generator or off the inverter, but they couldn't get to the boat and we had to go, so we left. So I got, you see the green, this green line right here? What that is that's one of the spare halyards. I have 2 spare halyards on this boat. And so I put that on there and lifted it up to take some of the pressure off. And then we took everything out of the dinghy and took the engine off and took everything, the fuel tank, the battery, took everything out of there. And we were able to come up the coast with it that way. So that's something that I got to work on. My buddy here in Rhode Island has a TIG welder, but his is, and he TIGs all the time, but his is 220. So either I have to go find something with 220 that will run it for him, or he thinks that he might be able to find one of his buddies that has a 110 TIG welder. So hopefully, not this hitch, but next hitch when I come back, my buddy Jeff will be able to do that. Or, as my brother said, if I'm gonna be in New London, there's about 10,000 TIG welders that work right across the river. So if you're in the New London area and you got a 110 TIG welder and you want some beer and some good karma, look me up. So that's that. And then the third thing that broke, and this is kind of interesting. I think when we talk about things that break on sailboats, we don't always discover them right away. I think this actually started a year ago when we were coming back from, a year ago in April when we came back from Puerto Rico and sailed back to Florida, and we had the unintentional jibe, and that caused the boom to break at the what do they call that thing? The toggle. They call it a toggle. Anyway, I was able to get not 1 but 2 toggles. My brother got me 2 toggles. They were waiting for us on the dock. We put it back together and everything was fine. And but just this hitch, just this trip right here, Runa was up here, and you can see how some of the stainless is really polished up. Runa was polishing away on the stainless. Something that I probably should have done in the last 2 years, but I haven't done at all. So he's really inspired me to do a lot more. But he found, you know what? I'm gonna stop the camera and go show you what he found. All right, I'm back. Let me see if I can put this over somewhere. Yeah. Ooh, it's hot up there. All right, this will work. So if you can see this, he found this bolt head sitting right on the coach roof there. So we looked all over the rig trying to figure out where this came from, and then we eventually found it, and taking everything apart, we found the other side of it, which is this. So this little bolt right here is what broke, and I'm going to show you what happened. But the interesting thing is that, I don't know if the camera will see it, I can't even see what the camera's showing here, but the bottom third is a new brake. The top 2/3 is weathered over. It's got some patina on it. So what turns out, it turns out that it's actually this car. And you can see this car with some modifications. You know what? I'm gonna go out on the deck and you can see it better instead of looking through the glass. Oh, it's nice out here. All right. So you can see I made some modifications here. But this car on the Traveler, so you're obviously supposed to go back and forth, and this thing right here is connected to this thing right here with one screw here and the other broken screw right here. Now obviously to get us home, we mounted this right here to hold that down, and then I put this is a Dyneema strap, which is probably stronger than our tow line on the tugboat. Just if this were to break free, I would rather have it stop than to build momentum and then do more damage there. So this is just a safety. This is to hold it in place. We have it here, and obviously I'm trying to sail so that the pressure would be going, the wind would be coming this way more than going that way, so that it won't rip it this way if this bolt's still good. So right now we have you know, the quickest fix for this is to get a new bolt and put that in. But because of the pressures involved, even the bolts that go through for the 3 blocks right there, you can see, and they're not bolts, but the metal pieces that go through there, they've been bent. So I don't even know how I'm going to get those out, but we'll have to figure that out later. But we have you know, the people that make this don't make this anymore. There's a new style and yada yada yada. I could put a whole new rig on, which I'd love to do, but as Runa pointed out, a whole new rig is going to involve the bolts where it screws in is never going to match, and it's watertight now, and I'm going to have to fill the other ones and drill the new ones, and you always wonder if I did it right. They did it at the factory, so I'm hoping they did it right, and Lord knows it was enough to break this and keep it on deck. So it would be nice to the simplest thing would be to get a brand new car with a brand new piece on the top, and then I can go and buy all new blocks and put new blocks on it, and then I'd be rigged up. But yes, having a sailboat means that look at this guy coming over here. Oh, Long Island Sound in its finest, a Friday. No wind at all. Every sailboat over here is motoring, but anyway, it's gorgeous out here. But yeah, things break all the time. I remember talking to somebody once, and they were telling me about the boat that they could afford, and I said, what do you mean that you could afford the boat? They said, oh, the mortgage payment. And I had to tell you that for most of us, well, I don't know about most of us, for me at any rate, the mortgage and the fuel payments are the least amount of money that I spend for the boat. Everything else comes at you. You know, I got a quote for the new head sail. There was a guy measuring my neighbor's catamaran, and he was from North Sails, and my neighbor yelled over to me, and I said, well, you know what, my head sail, I just got it restitched, so I should be fine for a while. I said, look at this, there's a lobster pot right in front of us. You can see the tide's high because it's just the top is sticking out of it. Looks like we're gonna miss it, but because of our full keel, I don't worry too much about it. We usually do pretty well getting by them. But now that I've said that, I probably jinxed myself. Anyway, but I said, sure, you know, if you want to come by and tell me what it's worth or whatever. So he took my information and got back to me, and he goes, great news. This is all in an email. He said, great news. We have if you order now, and this is like in the spring, he said, we can give you boat show fall prices. Best deal you're going to get all year, and but you won't be able to you won't be able to use it this year, but your sail looks fine. And I'm like, yeah, of course it looks fine. I just had it restitched. The thing's awesome. The only thing I really need is a cover, you know, a sun cover on it, you know. And anyway, yeah, I think he wanted $5,600. $5,600 for the head sail. Now, any of you guys with 50 footers out there, you're probably laughing right now, saying, oh, I wish I had a boat that I could get a head sail for $5,600, but man, seems like an awful lot of money to me. Fortunately, the previous owner just bought a brand new mainsail, so happy I should be good with that for a little while. But anyway, yeah, if you have a boat, things break all the time. So hopefully you can fix them yourself. Hopefully you got spares, or in my case at least, you got a workaround so you can continue working and continue, you know, get the job done and then fix it properly later. That's the hope at any rate. Doesn't always work that way, but that's what we're hoping for. And all you guys, like I say, most people that are watching this usually have boats anyway, and you guys probably know everything. So, but maybe you can chuckle at how I marvel at it. It's still new to me. In my world, something breaks, the engineer takes care of it. If it needs to be fixed, we write a requisition, and the company sends us a new one. Unfortunately, that doesn't work with my sailboat. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Be safe, and hopefully nothing's going to break for you guys. And hopefully if it is, it's nothing major. But be safe, and thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and liking the videos. See you on the one.